Good morning, friends. Welcome to Coffee Talk. Welcome to our fireside room. Do you know that this used to be the fireside room? Just
Not where I am.
No, you were outside.
I don't think you're in it either.
All right here, right?
No, this was like a hallway, right? This was a little exit.
Yeah, this is an emergency hallway. Yep.
Yeah.
We welcome you this morning. Welcome to the Christmas season. For us to say it, like, it's not new to you, obviously. You've been in the shopping malls, you've been in, all these places. And if you've been to Lakeview on a Sunday morning, you will have known that we're already right into the Advent season. And so, welcome to it. Does everybody do like a family Christmas, 25 days of Christmas, Advent, and something like that?
Well, my wife and son are doing it.
Yeah.
I don't eat the chocolate, so so they're doing it.
Sheena puts lots of thought and care every year into personalized Advent calendars for everyone in our family. It's very wonderful. Kind of stirred things up the other day. I'm in Walmart and all the Advent calendars are half price, and I'm like,
Ooh.
3 of those. And she was out of town. I was telling her about it. She's like, "What are you doing? I hate those things."
Okay, so
Anyways,
not that I'm plugging it,
Yeah.
but I was watching Jimmy Kimmel, and he went on to talk about the history of Advent calendars.
yes, I saw that too.
And how it goes back 150 years, and was verses and all these things. Anyways, we welcome you to Advent season, and Advent means
Arrival.
arrival. Yeah, I thought it was to come.
It depends. Like it's
Similar.
I mean, come on. Like
Yeah.
so many words have multiple meanings.
Yeah.
That it was a few years ago where we really focused on that idea of it is to coming. But what is a coming but an arrival?
Yeah.
Like, it's just it's something you're waiting for and expecting.
Yeah, expecting, or like if depending on how you look at it too, there's multiple thoughts of like, okay, is it like he has arrived or like it's coming? Right? Yeah, there's multiple meanings there. Anyways.
And then Jesus says, "Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
now and not yet."
And so we began this last Sunday with our first Sunday of Advent, and just a great time to just celebrate together as a community and to be looking forward in the sense of preparation. And that's kind of what I thought we would talk about today is, Jeff, you led us into this first Sunday of Advent with your first word was darkness. And you revealed this thought behind darkness of Isaiah 9, which says, "The people walking in darkness have seen a great light." And as we think about that, is like this darkness aspect, has kind of a thought behind it. But like if you've grown up in a church like I grew up in Alberta, where we had the Christmas wreath, and we would light a certain candle every week, and we would have a certain theme. One was joy and hope and peace and all these different things. As you think about those, maybe from your background, is there a certain one that kind of connects with you a little bit more as we look at these different Sundays of Advent?
When I first heard that question, I mean, how can you not want all of those?
Yeah.
But the one that I've for a long time has been joy. And I think partly is many years ago now, somebody said that, or I read somewhere that God is the most joyful being, and that surprised me.
Yeah.
It surprised me. I didn't think of him as joyful. Right? I thought of him maybe as loving and peaceful, but kind of angry at sin, and therefore angry at me. And to think of him as joyful is just wonderful. And I want to be someone of joy, And when you're around somebody of joy, it just so, there's warmth, there's a smile,
There's always excitement. There's always right? But you have to be on your toes, because it's like hanging out with Bob Goff. You got to be ready to make a left turn at any moment.
I mean, and it's not always that out there, but somebody of joy versus somebody of just like, it's so different. So I think that's the one that resonates with me. Yeah.
I think for me, every year can be a little different. And I certainly remember some years where it's like just captivated by the peace of the season.
Right.
And some years it is more that joy. I think these days it's a bit of a blending. Because I think the thing that actually I enjoy the most is the light of the season. Which I think is a bringing together of that hope, and because it pushes back the darkness, like you talked about a lot this week, right? I think I have, it's no coincidence, I think, that it's the season with the longest nights and
Yeah.
shortest day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I'm always like, can we do the Christmas list now? Can we do the Christmas list now? And so, because it just seems like when it's like absolutely dark at 5 o'clock, it's like, can we not light up our street? Can we not light up our neighborhood a little bit with some light that, sparks joy and is great to look at? We love as a family driving around and looking at all the displays. And there's a lot of joy and just delight in that. And at the same time, it's hopeful because we recognize that if this was the only light in our world, man, it'd be kind of dim.
Yeah. So I heard on a podcast, you might have heard it too, somebody said the phrase, when the world goes dark, we go bright, right? So like on the longest day of the year, they just turn on every light in their house and they put out all their Christmas lights and do their whole thing. So like to say, in the midst of darkness, Christ is upright. So I was driving with my son the other day, and we came around the corner, and it was starting to get dark, and we came around the corner, and there was somebody backing out of their driveway, and it was kind of on this curve, and I could see they were coming down, like it was on a bit of a hill. They were coming down, and I'm like, oh, are they going to stop? Are they going to stop? And all of a sudden, the beams of our car kind of hit their car as we were coming around this corner, and all of a sudden they stopped. So then my son and I had this conversation about like, did he see me because of the light sort of hitting his eye? And then we got into the next conversation. I know this is a rabbit trail. What would it be like if it was just darkness all of the time? Like all the time. And you could see nothing, and the only thing that you had was just, that sense of artificial light. And or even like, what if we had no light? What if there was warmth and heat, but there was no light? And he said very astutely, it would be like a form of blindness. Like to live in that sense of like, it's just always dark. You can't see anything. Yes, you could, maybe turn on a flashlight or something like that, but like in this room right now, it would be dark. I would know that you guys are here, but it would just be dark. That would just be a very, very strange way to live. So in that moment, all of a sudden, it gave new depth to this sense of the people walking in darkness have seen this great light. And so for me, when I think of Advent, quite often it's that sense of hope. But even with this year, where I think of that sense of prophecy, where Christ was talked about for hundreds of years, and all throughout Scripture, like yes, for sure, like in the garden, like he is foreshadowed, but to know that Isaiah was written hundreds of years before Christ ever came, and then there's this like stopping, and then 400 years of what we actually call darkness, right? And to know that all of that God was working in the background to point towards, so that when Christ came at just the right time, at just the perfect moment, at the fullness of time, that all of a sudden the light happened. Like it wasn't just this random miracle that happened at that time. It was like God appointed, but it was foreshadowed in so many different ways. And that's why like even that sense of prophecy and hope just brings out that so much more in the sense of Advent. Like it's just really exciting. And I don't know. And Jeff, you talked about, there's more than one kind of darkness, right? Can you explain that a little bit?
Just that it's kind of a metaphor for if you're in a dark place, you say sometimes it's like you're sad, you're lonely, you're depressed. some of the connotations that you're implying. And so darkness can just be a metaphor for all those hard emotions that we struggle with sometimes, right? Yeah, that's pretty much what I was trying to convey by that.
Yeah.
So all of those were intended in Isaiah, I think. People
Yeah.
walking in darkness, like, and darkness of sin, right?
Yeah.
Sin is conveyed as darkness too, which is why we have depression, anxiety, and all that stuff. That's a result of the sinfulness around that the world is tainted by, and so. Yeah.
I mean,
So,
John certainly picks up on those themes, right?
Yes.
Like, when he talks about Jesus as the light.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because John doesn't really, he doesn't have the nativity story, but he certainly uses a lot of the same themes throughout his writing. And when you have eyes to see, it's there, right? And I think of another type of blindness that a lot of people will have is we can talk about seeing even, a foreshadowing of Christ in whether it's the Garden of Eden and right in Genesis, wherever. It's that is kind of a literary imagination that I think a lot of the New Testament authors had, inspired by the Spirit, to go back and say, well, here's where it all is. And we get to reap that benefit. Imagine, for centuries, right, that they read Genesis and went, aha.
Yeah.
Right? And just that's what happened, right? They didn't have that level of, and I'm not sure when that started. Probably it did start with some Jewish, scholars started wrestling with, hey, is this the Messiah in here? And I'd have to go back on the history of that, but sometimes the darkness is just we don't always see the richness that God has put right in front of our eyes. And sometimes we just need to, because Paul talks about seeing dimly, right? That idea that one day we're going to fully know.
Yeah.
And because I sometimes wonder, how much am I missing around?
Yeah,
How much am I just missing?
We think in this information age, man, we are so enlightened, right? And yet there is that limitation, at this point we see dimly. Or will history also look back on this time and say, man, they were walking in darkness, right?
Possibly.
More than one
we don't
time,
know.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Even that, and that's why, the context actually really does matter, because it's talking about this hope for Israel, right? But how much, even just that phrase of people walking in darkness have seen a great light, we think that, that was for them, but actually right away, immediately, we kind of overlay that on ourselves. You think about somebody who, for the first time ever, gives their life over to Christ. All of a sudden, it's like they have these blinders taken off and their life is turned over, or how we have actually dark moments in our own lives. We've walked through some difficult days too. And what I think has also brought us through a lot of that as well too, is not just focusing on the darkness, but actually saying, there is a truth that, kind of like the prophecy that was given hundreds of years earlier, that, there is a hope in all of this that kind of spans through that sense of darkness that I might feel or have, that actually is going to keep, pushing me forward, and one step at a time. And that's, for me anyways, that kind of has felt a little bit like getting through some of those difficult days of hey, I'm loved by my family. I'm loved by God. The sun will rise tomorrow and God is still good, right? Those few things have gotten me through some difficult days, in previous years as well. And I think, I wonder if that's where, on a larger scale, this is what God is talking about, as it came down to this amazing moment where, this little baby came, right? And yeah, beautiful picture, beautiful thought and context that, yes, Israel was walking through, but how, Jeff, you kind of said at the end of the sermon, God is ready to hear you, to have you call out to Him, and just cast your cares on Him and open up to Him, and He is longing for deep relationship with His people. Right?
Yeah.
So we say these things in hopefulness that our Christmas season will continue, should the Lord will it, and we will continue on into the next few Sundays of Advent, and looking forward, yes, to Christmas and the celebration of that one day, and yet there's all of these things that can be celebrated through this whole season and beyond, and so this is a wonderful celebration time. A couple things we want to kind of point forward to in the coming weeks. This normally comes out on a Thursday morning, and so we're glad you're joining with us. If you found yourself with nothing to do on a Friday night, which I hope you don't, where would they find themselves, Chris?
I'm just like, has anyone
Where should
ever
they?
found nothing to do on a Friday night?
Oh, I'm
That's-
sure there's a
We
few.
want to give you like maybe one of the best possible things to do on a Friday night, because it's light up. I love, one of the things I noticed this year is if you're a total light up junkie, you probably have marked like every community has its own light up, and the wonderful thing is they're not all on the same night. Like you could have been down in Summerland last Friday, but of course you were at the ladies' banquet. Or you could have been like, I think last Saturday was like Kelowna. And anyways, you could just go around and it's a beautiful time of year. But then again, I've already said, I'm loving Christmas lights a lot these days. But Brown Road from I always get whether mixed up, which is Main Street and which is the other one. But from the southbound lane, part of the highway to it's just past the Heritage Building, is all blocked off, pedestrian zone. Around 6 o'clock, the lights all get turned out. But starting at 5 o'clock, when the event kicks off, there'll be some people from our church there just to hang out with our community. Just say Merry Christmas, and would you like to make an ornament to put on your tree? And it's just a chance to just sort of be part of what is a community celebration with lots of different groups coming together to mark the Christmas season. And so it's going to be fun. It's always a fun party. If you want to come and hang out in our tent and interact with people who are doing the ornaments and just kind of help facilitate that, we'd love to have some more help with that. But I encourage you just to, because it's a community thing, let's be where the community's at on Friday night and go join the fun. And it is fun. So that's that. So we're kind of like almost right in the middle of the action. We could not have asked for a better booth. We're not off on the edge, kind of in a dark corner. No, we're like right in the center of the action. It's going to be a great night.
Awesome.
So the whole event starts at 5. But if you'd like to help in the booth, maybe just shoot me a message ahead of time, and I'll let you know some more specifics about it. But even if you just want to stop by, I'd love to see you.
Yeah. And so that's this Friday, and then we'll gather together on Sunday. We'll celebrate the second Sunday of Advent, and then following that, Jeff, what's happening?
Right after the service on Sunday is Gifts of Hope. We are starting to stack chairs, and then the Salvation Army Church will come in, we'll bring in all the gifts, and we will convert the whole area between Sunday and Monday into the Gifts of Hope, and then starting, I think, Monday night or Tuesday, people start coming and buying, but getting a gift for their family, and it's just a great thing to be a part of. So if you are coming on Sunday, you get to help by stacking your chair. If you are already involved through the week, told them you're volunteering, that's great. If you want to volunteer, here's a QR code. You can take a picture of that and go there and fill out the form, and we'll find a place for you to help. So, yeah, it's good.
That's good.
It's exciting.
We were watching Home Alone 2 as a family the other night. Did you ever remember the Home Alone 2? There's a scene where he goes into the toy store and he's like, he's complimenting the owner, this is the most amazing toy store. I think there's one better. And it's the one that gets built in our sanctuary every year.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Miracle on Alhambra Drive Street.
There you go.
And so that's happening all of next week, and so that kind of takes us through that whole week. We want to kind of look ahead to a couple things and just kind of throw a bit of a teaser out there of December 22nd. There is a drama being planned, a Christmas drama that involves some of our kids and adults and a group of people who just want to bring the joy of the Christmas story to you. and it's called Christmas Plus.
And that's on a Sunday morning.
That's on Sunday morning,
Yep.
December 22nd, and that's in the service, and so we want to celebrate that day. And then a couple days later will be Christmas Eve, and so we will have a candlelight service here at the church at 6:30 p.m., and you're welcome to invite friends and family, and just come celebrate, and we'll sing some carols, and celebrate the birth of Christ together on that Christmas Eve. And so, we look forward to that. Thank you for being with us this morning. Thanks for just hanging out and having a coffee with us, and sitting by our fire. Hopefully you're sitting around your fire sometime this week as well too. And we hope you have a wonderful week.